We're going to start off our meeting today with a traditional prayer from Hana Garakto, my great nephew.
Parang yagi siya nag-reason ko at least. Kaya ko hinay ko makita nga. And the next one you already know. Ngayon na nagkakura to gusto. Na nagkakano pali, na chini hali, na nagkakano ba ang dajat. Pero mga pasandali. Dato ko din na yun. Nagkakano tali.
Tanito, Nyawa. Nyawa goa Hanagarakta. And we gather our minds together in peace. And the Creator created everything that's on this earth. And that's the different nationalities of people. And the Creator loves everything that He created, all of the And so that's the agenda for the General Council meeting today for Monday, April 28th. The first item of business is the infrastructure portfolio and the unserviced roads. And if the council would turn to tab 2, it's in your book. Currently, there are 22.6 kilometers of remaining road without access to communal water servicing. Mohawks, the Bay of Quinte remain. Some of these houses remain on a precautionary boil water advisory because they rely on groundwater wells or holding tanks. There are currently 241 homes remaining that rely on groundwater. These wells are considered goody wells, which means groundwater under the direct influence of surface water. Typically, the groundwater is malodorous, it corrodes pipes, and in some circumstances can damage appliances. It has a rotten egg smell in many places. There are also quality concerns related to cross-contamination from septic systems, fuel contamination, soils, and homes relying on shoreline wells oftentimes can be vulnerable to blue-green toxic algae, which sometimes blooms in the Bay of Quinte in the warmer months. So the groundwater is a very unreliable supply of water. Extreme weather events have also occurred which cause droughts and flooding, which demonstrate that Tyendinagsa is heavily impacted by climate change. Floodings in 2017 and 2019 have rendered wells and holding tanks unsuitable. Residents in Gordons Road and Hickory area are highly vulnerable to the impacts of flooding. MBQ has experienced recent droughts. A level 3 drought in 2016. For the first time in 2016 until and early 2017 as level 2 droughts for the consecutive years from 2018 to 2020. This is a significant issue of public health and safety. Snookies Road, an area is adjacent to the area that in December 2002, Health Canada issued a moratorium on drilling any more wells due to limited groundwater available in that area. A hydrogeological study of the Tyendinagsa Mohawk territory completed by XCG consultants in 2006 reported that well shortages had occurred throughout the community, with the most severe in the Shannonville area. Lack of fire protection. The current exponential growth in our community is placing more demand on an underfunded fire department, stretched thin with limited operation budgets, although a number of calls will vary from year to year. On average, the Mohawk Fire Department is responding to 100 calls annually. In an emergency, every minute counts, and with the availability of fire hydrants, it will save lives and avoid potential tragic losses. So currently there are 241 homes that need to have piped water. There's 43 businesses that need piped water, and so the council's been working on. There's a little over 1,000 homes now that are connected to piped water, and currently there are 88 homes using the truck water program. So there's a chart that shows the number of homes that are currently on the different roads. On Billy Brews Road, there's one house. Church Lane, one house. North. No, these are the ones using water delivery services. One on Church Lane, one on Depot Road, one on the Ferry Lane. Gordon's Road, there are 3 that have a holding tank. Hickory Road 4, Highway 4911. The Industrial Park has 1, Johnson's Lane has 4, Lower Slash Road 24, Mowbray's Road 6, Queen Street 1, Snookies Road 11, Tom's Road 4, Upper Slash Road 8, Wyman's Road 8, for a total of 88 people on homes on holding tanks. So the following water distribution projects have been completed. Phase 1 was the construction of the water treatment plant and installation of 5.6 kilometers of water main, which started in 2013 and was finished in 2016. There are 0.8 kilometers of water distribution to service communities, the community center, And so the community center here got connected to water in 2000, October of 2000, started in 2017 and September of 2018. Mohawk's the Bay Quinte water main extensions. Class C estimate breakdown January 2025. So there's a number of roads out that need water main. The Airport Road, Billy Bruce Road, Clarence Road, North Eli's Road, South Eli's Road, Gordon's Road, Great Oak Lodge, Hickory Road, Homeland Drive, 49 Highway, the Industrial Park Road. The road at the Industrial Park doesn't have water in Shannonville. Industrial Park Road, Johnson's Lane, Lower Slash Road, Mowbray's Road, North Church Lane, Norway's Road, Private Road A, Private Road B, Queen Street, Salmon River Road, Snookies Road, Tom's Road, Upper Slash Road West, Upper Slash Road East, Wyman's Road, insurance, bonding, and non-construction costs. And there's a contingency of $16,995,175. So to service all of these roads, we need $66 million. And there is an application into the Canada Infrastructure Community Housing Infrastructure Grant. Applications close on May the 15th this year, and we'll hear after that because the announcements are made because we're in election mode. So we hope our application will be get some funding. Linda and Curtis and I lobbied the department for a contribution to get the department to contribute some to this because the First Nations pot of money, and this is Canada-wide, is there's $1 billion put in this here fund from Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund, and only 10% of that is allocated to Native people, but that's the floor, not the ceiling. And so there's going to be a lot more money needed. So I think we need other federal partners to also assist with this. So we lobbied the department for a contribution to help our application with that grant. And we did apply to the disaster mitigation fund for the same project, but the program was oversubscribed with applications across Canada, and our application was not successful, but it met all of the criteria to be considered for funding. So there's a number of unopened road allowances, and I understand that there has been a community meeting about the unopened road allowances, which was well attended. And so the council has received numerous requests for road extensions over the years and have requested they be placed on the capital plan for consideration when funding became available. Enhanced Indigenous Services Canada funding is available for the proposed projects, and we have a budget of around $12 million to open these unopened road allowances. So the roads that are unopened presently, Marks Road requires a 400 meters intersection between Beach and Marks Road, and that will provide servicing for additional 10 lots. Upper Slash Road, they require 1,880 meters of east of Milltown Road, that will provide 26 lots. Homeland Drive, 1,615 meters of road construction, 24 lots. Eli's Road, 1,100 south of the Ridge Roads, that'll provide servicing for 17 lots. Hickory Road, 14 lots. Additional road projects include the York Road rehabilitation. This will require road-based improvements, pulverized and repaving the road. The design is complete, and its construction is estimated to be approximately $4 million. The Lower Slash Road, 2.4 kilometers reconstruction, Highway 49 to Bells Road. That road will be pulverized, base improvements, ditching, and surface treatment. The design is $100,000, but the construction cost is $2.5 million. Wyman's Road reconstruction requires pulverizing, base improvements, ditching, and surface treatment. The design $100,000. Construction will cost about $3.5 million. So altogether, we have the grand total of the different roads: Marks Road, Upper Slash Road, Homeland Drive, Hickory, and Eli's. The grand total for all of the work that needs to be done there is $13,027,019.49. And for utilities, grand total for less utilities, $9,672,843.03. And we have a $12 million budget currently to work, and it has to be spent by March 31st, 2026. Otherwise, it's recoverable by the department. So that work will proceed. And I'd like to share with you too on infrastructure. It's not in the program, but our lobby has been very successful. A few years ago with the fire hall, we did finance it with the Bank of Montreal loan. And as a result of our lobby with the department, the federal government has agreed to reimburse us the cost of construction of the fire hall. So it'll be a little over $4 million coming back to the band, as well as the Ferry Lane extension for the water down there. That has been approved. The department's funding that for a little over $1 million. And there was some cost overruns on some of the water lines that have already been constructed for a little over $1 million, and that the department has all agreed to reimburse the band for that. So it's about $4.1 million. And they're looking at some other issues we have brought forward, like the extension of the fire hall to provide a bay for our ambulance services, and the reimbursement of some of our other capital buildings that we've already constructed, like the Public Works Garage, the Administration Office, and the Wellness Building as well. So lobby updates, the water and wastewater. The Department, Indigenous Services Canada, does not have the $66 million that we need, so we're hoping that the other program, the Canada Housing Infrastructure Community Grant Fund, will approve our application. We have studied the water quite well with the droughts and the blue-green algae and the unreliable groundwater supply, the climate change impacts, so we've made a strong case. So the water treatment plant upgrades, $15 million. As the community grows, we have to modify our water treatment plant to provide more servicing. There's currently enough water there now to service the existing homes, but as we have growth, we're going to have to expand that service. So we're planning ahead, and the amount project cost for that's around $15 million. We've had some discussions with the department on that need at our lobby sessions. The department required us to satisfy them that there's enough capacity with our water treatment plant, and as well as in our capacity agreement with the town of Desronda to service the needs of the community. So there's enough there in both systems to service the existing need, but as we grow, we need to expand that system. The Ferry Lane servicing, it was $1,013,101. Indigenous Services has approved that, and the funds will be transferred to the band in the upcoming weeks to pay for all of it. There was a slight cost overrun of about $30,000. We have requested the cost to servicing the overrun to be completed as well, paid for as well. The water extension, Tyendinagsa Projects Phase 2 water line was $1,018,253. INAC has authorized reimbursement of that. Phase 4 areas, was $580,400. Indigenous Services Canada has also authorized reimbursement of that through our lobby efforts. The Bayshore Road lift station, that pumps the sewage to Desronto for about 318 connections. And so because of COVID and because of supply issues, that work was proceeded during that time, and there was a lot of cost impacts on projects at that time. So there was a $960,375.07 cost overrun. We have requested the department to reimburse that. Invoices have been sent to Kyle Weir, the Associate Regional Director, so they're looking for money to cover that as well. Quinte Mohawk School operates on a peatland system, and the peatland system is nearing its end of life, and so it's been there for a long time since the school was built. And so to rehabilitate that and create that issue, it's going to cost $6.2 million. And the design has been completed and will be submitted to the department at the end of this month. And they said they would find the money to cover that project because it is a federal school, and they're going to cover that. The wastewater servicing feasibility study. So Glenn Gilbert was our capital management officer a number of years ago at the department. And when the agreement was that within 5 years after the water treatment plant was built, they would look at developing a sewage system for the community. And so we have requested the money to go ahead with that study. And I've noted to the department the difficulties with our train because there's many areas along the roads that are swampy and we would have difficulty meeting the level of service standards of the department because obviously people don't build in swamps. And so the First Nation has a major capital plan. We'd like to the study to look at options currently for 600 homes within the community and 300 on the Desrono system. And we'll continue to have ongoing meetings with the department to push that forward. It will require a signed project approval report. It was received by the department on January the 8th. And approval process initiated, and there are a few suggested edits with the PAR that will be shared with the community at our next meeting. So that still is under discussion. The PAR has been submitted, and there might be some minor changes to that. The centralized water treatment plant feasibility study. $72,280 is required. It's for a capacity assessment, review the capacity of the water treatment plant to support further water main extensions and the remaining capacity in the water wastewater agreement with the town of Desrono. Preliminary, the technical memorandum was received by the department in January 2025. The draft final report under review to be submitted by the end of April. And there is a standing obligation on the department to cover 100% of water wastewater projects. Marks Road Extension, Upper Slash Road. On Upper Slash Road, Homeland Drive, Hickory Road, Eli's Road. $13,027,019. ISC roads hence funding is available. That's the $12 million I just mentioned. Subject to year-end final adjustments and operation requirements for 2025-26. So probably the band will have to put about $1 million in to get all these other roads opened up just to allow room for people to build houses. The Quinte Mohawk School, instead of band-aiding repairs at the Quinte Mohawk School, I've asked the department to provide money for a full technical assessment of the school. So we have everything done, everything identified and costed out, what needs to be done. It'll provide for better planning. So we did request $30,000 for the study. And the school is now 50 years old. And they're going to have a celebration of the school sometime in June of this year. And encourage many people to come out because it was a major feat for Chief Hill and the council about 50 years ago to get a new school of that caliber. And so there had been some brickwork that was falling off on the east side, but the whole mechanical systems and it needs review and updating. And so that the $30,000 for the assessment, technical assessment, will indicate what needs to be done and what it will likely cost. That's underway. Quinte Mohawk School, there was with the soldering that they used to use a few years ago, there was lead soldering. And so there was some lead issues in the water that was detected because the school water has to be tested regularly. And so that has been, there was $623,460. And because lead was found in the pipes, water fixtures also needed to all be replaced. So that work was completed on April the 27th. And they have to do bacterial and lead sampling tests during the week of April 28th. And once that's test okay, then the boil water advisory will be removed once the 2 samples are collected within 24 hours to come back clean. So that was common when the school was built to use lead soldering in the plumbing, but they did find a small detection in the water, so it had to be corrected. Quinte Mohawk School replacement feasibility study. As I said, the school is 50 years old. So we have requested a separate meeting with Indigenous Services Canada to discuss maybe the building of a new school. As I've already mentioned, the fire hall cost $4.3 million. And on May 31st, ISC reimbursement was in progress. They sent the first check. They're going to pay for installments over this year. $3.1 million has been sent to the band all now. Remaining balance of $1,181,500 will be provided once source funds are found. And there was a letter of approval dated April 24, 2025. During this past ice storm, we had some tree damage, and of course this affects the critical infrastructure, the hydro lines, the telephone lines, danger of trees falling on the road and all of that. And so I did call the department, and they did agree to provide us with $61,500 to remove the dead trees that could impact on critical infrastructure. And so right now, there's a number of trees that are on certificate of possession land, but if they fall over on the hydro wires and stuff, it's still going to put the community without power. So they've agreed to that can be covered under that 61,000. So the administration, building, CWC, and the Public Works Garage, we have to submit to the department the historic construction cost of those buildings, and they'll look at reimbursing us as money becomes available. We currently had a water and sewer deficit of around 710,000, I think it was. Don't quote me on that number, but that we've requested reimbursement of that as well. So that's the result of our lobby, and we'll now take any questions that you may have about the infrastructure update. Are there any comments the council would like to make? But we have to lobby to get funds. It just doesn't come here on its own. Go ahead.
I just had a question. You talked about road allowances being opened up, and you talked about 4 of them.
No, I'll tell you what they are.
Okay, I just want to know, what is the process in approving the road allowances that have been approved? And then are there others that have not been approved yet?
These are existing band-owned road allowances. We're not building private roads. We're opening up the road allowances that belong to the band.
So my question still stands. Is it based on the road that's opened, the amount of homes that are going to be able to be built on that road? I'm just asking for the criteria.
Some people have indicated that they own land along those roads, younger people, and they would like to build houses there. And so the $66 million project includes the installation of the other infrastructure, the water and the water lines as well.
So there's certain individuals who have lobbied to have these specific road allowances opened?
Yeah, there's been indication for people that the younger people want to build homes along those roads. So the council, there's not much of the land is held by certificate of possession, and many of the people do not want to sell land only to their family members. So there's many people that do not have an opportunity to build a house because they can't find a building lot anywhere.
Okay, and then my second question is, you talked about future water hookups, and then that's the thing on the, so for the homes that are in areas where there is no longer wells that are allowed to be drilled, is there options for those lands or those people that own that property to build a house and access water in another area, but like in another option? Instead of drilling a well, if the wells are no longer allowed to be drilled because of low water?
Yeah, the only other option that they have right now is a holding tank and truck water delivery.
So then they would still build their house, but
Yeah.
then they just couldn't have a well, they would have a holding tank instead?
But the problem that we have with holding tanks, there isn't any contractor that does cleaning of those holding tanks, and they should be disinfected once a year, otherwise that becomes a health issue as well.
And is there an agency or department in the band office that monitors that?
They test we have people that go around and test the water. I don't know what their schedule is, but they do have staff that test water, and sometimes it's when the homeowner requires it to be done.
Okay, so that concern is addressed by the water treatment people that test
Well,
the water.
the water treatment plant that's delivered, it has to meet public health standards. It's tested regularly, every 15 seconds or something like that, with a computerized system. So that is well monitored. But again, if they put water in a holding tank and that holding tank has not been disinfected, it's still going to become contaminated. Also, if it's in a low area, it can be prone to flooding in that area, and then it's no longer safe because surface water gets in the holding tank. So we want to get away from holding tanks and have a municipal piped water system everywhere. It's to protect public health and safety.
Okay, so you're saying that, but a house would still get approved to be built if they had a holding tank?
There's nothing in the policy that would preclude that, and so, but that's the second best option, I guess, is to have a holding tank.
Okay. And then you talked about the damages in the ice storm, and you talked about $66,000
61,500.
being allotted to the damage. Was there a
No,
contract?
they're hiring a contractor to go to 32 locations to cut down trees that have been identified by our road superintendent.
And is there a separate contract that has been allotted for that work?
The
Or is
council-
that like a
the coun-
tender
the
that's
cou-
still
the-
going
The
out?
infrastructure department collected some estimates, and it was brought to council, and the council approved to go ahead with the work. The department approved to fund it.
And so there was no tender that was put out to the community, and there was no public opportunity to be able
Curtis,
to
Can you speak to that?
Yeah, there was. We did.
Okay.
We did
put a public tender out?
for people from this reserve. Okay,
Do the work.
trying to keep the work in our area to be local. We did approach people that had some of the criteria to do this. Now, mind you, you have to be like really, really good to be in cutting around power lines.
Yeah, and I 100% understand and appreciate the complexity of it. I'm just asking about the process in which contracts are given out, and if there's a fair opportunity for everybody in our community to apply for these contracts, or if these contracts are given to specific people because they have specific relationships with people and because they know specific things about their lives to be able to.
No.
In this
that's not true on
particular
that part.
instance, it's the work is being given out to the people from the reserve. It's not going to be tendered out off the reserve. We're looking at hiring our own businesses, keeping our money here with our own people.
I think that's wonderful. I just want to make sure that everybody in our community has the same opportunity.
As long as they have the certified businesses, insurance, whatnot, then there are businesses here that are tree cutting businesses on the reserve.
I did question
Thank
one-
you.
I did question why one contractor wasn't approached, and the reason why it was given was that they didn't have all the necessary equipment to do the job.
One was.
Okay.
Okay, so my question, it's not even a question, it's a clarification. You're saying road openings. They're technically not full road openings, is that correct?
No, they're
Some
going
are partial.
No, they're going to be.
So you're going to have to put bridges over some creeks that run through there? Because I think the maps I seen didn't show the full road opening.
Okay, so I don't believe that the roads are going to be fully open with building of bridges. My understanding is that it'll be extended to allow the people to build wherever they want to build, but some of them might be, obviously the Marks Road, there's a very large swamp there, so we're not going to build a bridge across that large swamp. But there may be some others that may require culverts that would be done, but the details of that would be up to the engineers, and we can have another meeting to provide clarification on that, unless you know, Curtis, that level of detail.
They're partial for now, but it's not to say they won't be opened, like the other portions of them won't be opened in future pending funding.
All I'm putting forward is when you're saying road openings, please clarify that, say partial road openings.
Absolutely.
When you're looking at doing that, because when I first heard road openings, I'm going, holy crap. You've got major bridges to put in there, so it's just for future. okay?
Absolutely.
Whenever you're doing anything,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
specify
Okay,
it.
thank you. Were there any other comments or questions on the infrastructure update? But we are,
Okay, so I did write down a question with regards to, you're talking about fire services. Our fire don't have enough people, or they don't have enough fundings or anything. So because our community is growing in size and the number of people coming here, we have aging parents that are being brought to the reserve who are non-status. Have you looked at membership in the number of people that are actually status, and/or if there's people that have homes on family land that aren't status, why are we not charging them some sort of a fee? Because the money we are getting is for members. It's not for non-members, whether it's CP land or whether it's communal land. That is something I think you need to look into.
We've had that discussion, Colleen, at council, and I have raised the same concerns that you are bringing forward today, that the money is for the bad people who have status that reside on the reserve. And one of the other things we have is that sometimes the people who are not members disturb the quiet enjoyment of the members in the use and in their homes. And I don't think that's right. I think the members are the ones who have the right to live here. And with the non-members, it's a privilege. And if we're going to continue to be a reserve, then we have to make sure that we can't just accommodate everybody that people want to bring here. And we get complaints. The police have get complaints as well. One place, they've been running there for 2 years, dealing with complaints. And to me, if people can't get along and harass the people who are members and disturb the quiet enjoyment of their property, then I personally think it's time to say Onigiwahe. Because, there's people, it's interfering with people's rights.
Did you note that on your thing?
Well, really, I think we need to go back to a permit system to live on the reserve, because we need to know who's here and what they're all about. Because right now, people are just inviting people to come and be here. We really don't know who's here.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, Chief, that just note it, okay? I
Yeah.
don't know whether we need any more explanation.
Okay.
or not. But just note that that's the next step, I think. If
Okay.
you find out who is here and do something about it.
And-
Because well, that money is for us, the First Nation.
You're right. Yep. And like we had stated before, that we have discussed this in council. It's a fine line with stepping on feet. People that are building rental places here and renting to non-native. So how do you approach them? They're building houses and not renting to our own people, whether our people cannot afford their rent. So why, I mean, like, we all know that the reserve has gone skyrocket with everything, building houses, the price of buying property, everything has just gone right through the roof. And why is that? Because of the businesses, I think. They can afford it. The regular person cannot, and I wanted to say a little something about a question that was asked earlier about road openings. How is it brought forth? Well, we discuss it, and if you've got one person that owns property on a road, as opposed to somebody that's like 27 possible houses, well, obviously we're going to go with the road opening for the 27 because it opens up the road for more people, which is just sensible. And that's how some decisions are made on what is right, and it's not any kind of lottery or anything like that. It's just, it's common sense.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Kenny, you're next.
Appreciate that, Chris, but my concerns are, you have the subdivisions and you have one person living in 4-bedroom houses down there, 3-bedroom houses, one person, and there's a few houses down there doing that right now. Why aren't they put somewhere else and having families in there? Like, I don't know who takes care of that. I don't know whose that department is. Why isn't that looked into? I've asked that question right there every time I come here, and nobody seems to do nothing about it.
Okay, Gord, do you want to speak to that, or do you want to wait, put it, note
So
it?
I don't know whose department that is, but I
I
mean,
know it's like,
it should be looked into, shouldn't it? I mean, we got families that,
So
got
what-
kids that are trying to get houses, and these guys are one person in the whole house.
If I can answer a little bit towards that. So this council has become aware of situations like that. And when we have, we've actively been trying to just shift some houses. If there's people that are overhoused, we are trying to move them to an accommodation that is a little bit more beneficial to them, because a lot of the times they're seniors as well. And if we're able to move them into a house that is more appropriate to their living standards, then we have been able to do a few of those. But it just is, there's a lot of moving parts to that to kind of get everybody in the right spot, but we are actively trying.
So currently, Kenny, we're building 14 one-bedroom houses in North Street. If you go down, you can see
Right.
there's some places there. There's transitional housing in Shannonville for people that need special help to life skills, that sort of thing. But also, a part of our lobby, we lobbied the department for $350,000 to design a 22-unit apartment building. So we are working at getting more housing supply on the reserve. And so they did fund the funding for the design, and probably will have to use the conventional Section 95 ministerial guarantee loans to build that apartment building.
And I think that's great, but
Like there is
this
a,
has been going on a long time.
and one of the other reasons is that we currently have leases with people, and if they pay their lease and on time, all the time, then we can't break that lease. There's no grounds to break that lease.
I must apologize, Ken, because for myself personally, I don't know where everybody lives on the territory.
No.
I mean, I don't
didn't say
know.
you
I know. I realize that, but it's little steps, and you've been mentioning it. I haven't been here for as long as you've been mentioning it, and like I said, I don't know which particular place you're talking about. It's just, sorry for the ignorance, but we can only look into something. I mean, I can only look into something when I know about it, and I don't know about it. So I just have to apologize. That's all.
No, but there's people down that's in the subdivision, that one person is renting rooms to people, non-native, in their house. You know, that kind of knows what's going on. I mean, I don't know who does, put me on there. I'll go down and check for you if you want.
You should have called me when I was talking to you that time, and you should have mentioned something. Like, I mean, I had you right on the telephone, but you never said anything. Like, you can talk to me. I mean, that's just because I'm sitting here. I'm sitting at home, and I can answer questions or I can help.
Okay,
No.
no problem.
Okay. I need a glass
You
of
know,
water.
but if you need a hand to walk around down there, I'm good to go.
Okay. I can tell you
Retired,
that
so.
the housing
Retired.
policy requires them to inspect those houses twice a year. So Tom Kring's department are to inspect those houses twice a year, so they should know who's living there. Also, if they bring other tenants there, they violate their lease and their lease can be broken. Sean?
Thanks. Just on the issue that was raised about residency in the community. April 1st, every year, a couple years ago, 230 years, we celebrated Simcoe Deed, Simcoe Treaty, Simcoe Proclamation that specifies and spells it out pretty clearly that this land is for the benefit of us and our people by our customs and our ways. And when it comes to people living in our community, I've listened to people from up on Homeland Drive. I've listened to people on the Slash, people in Shannonville that have had dogs running, that have bitten their grandkids and while they're riding bikes, that they're afraid to put their kids outside. And this is something that's been going on for a long time, and it's something that I know that council is aware of. And there's more than that. In the past few years, the Men's Society here has ejected sex offenders, non-native sex offenders from the Slash Road, from the Bible College, from Bayshore Road, and people that have sexually assaulted and raped our kids. And we've been dealing with that time and time again. Up at that house beside the school that McMurdo was using or is using for a halfway house from the federal penitentiary, where the school called and said that they were concerned because a registered sex offender was standing at the fence of the school while our kids were out in the playground playing, that caused our entire school to change the way in which our kids go out into the playground, where they can't go into that one section because of people living there, non-Mohawks living there. And this isn't just about having people, and it is an issue when it comes to services and stuff, but it isn't just simply about services. We've been talking about identifying the people in our community who live here. If people want to live here, then they're welcome to live here. But like other communities, we're going to goddamn well know who is living here. And when I'm afraid to have my kids or my neighbor's kids or my friends' kids that are afraid to go outside because they might be abducted or picked up by a sex offender who's living in our community, when that happens, it's too late. And if people want to live here, if they can't go down to the band office and register like they do in Akwesasne, like they do in Ganawage, if you have something to hide and you won't go down there and give your name so that the police can look at you and check you out, then you shouldn't be living here.
Thank you very much for your opinion. I will tell you, Sean.
It's not just my opinion, Chief.
No.
It's what's going on in this community
but
and what has been going on.
We've discussed that,
And
Sean.
it shouldn't be left to community members to go out and eject those undesirables who are living here.
We've discussed that, as well as non-native businesses on the reserve too. So
Not only
that's
non-native businesses, but non-native employees, people that are working in those businesses. It's identifying those people. If a company wants to hire non-native people, then those people should be identified, because they come into contact not just with our kids, but with our women and other people in the community.
good point.
And I want to just say one thing. When it comes to, our resources are our resources, and they come in for our community. And the one thing we're not going to do is say, well, these people should pay their way. Because I can tell you, there's 230 reserves across Canada that now have land taxation. And there's up in Kettle Point, 100 kilometers north of Toronto, 100 kilometers west of Toronto. There's Kettle Point and Stony Point. I read a post by a guy in February of this year. And he said that the Band Council imposed taxation on the non-natives living there so that they could pay their way. And in order to do that, you have to sign on to a tax agreement with the federal government. It means you give up sections of the Indian Act. And in February 1st of this year, there's an organization called the Municipal MCAP, and Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. And what they do is, so they have people that are living out by Long Point and stuff, all those non-Indians. They say, okay, you guys got to pay this. But then the Municipal Assessment Corporation came and started assessing their houses, the people who live on the Indians. And they came February 1st and said, well, we're going to start assessing your houses now. Because once you sign on to that taxation structure, that means that it's not just applied to white people. That's the hook. They apply it to a few white people, but once that structure's in place, then they can do it to all of us. 230 reserves across Canada that have land taxation. Last year's federal budget, there was a thing called the fact tax, and most people don't know about it. And I think it's great that you put this agenda up here on infrastructure and take 35 or 40 minutes of our time talking about water hookups when we read about these other issues about taxation coming to our community, having liquor, having sex offenders in our community, having all these other issues, and we're wasting 35 minutes talking about water. Anyway, last year's budget, it talked about this, it's called fact tax: fuel, alcohol, cannabis, tobacco, and vape. So a council can sign on and start taxing those things in the community, and then they get the money back. For all the years that we've lived in this community, all the years, we've kept alcohol out. We had the Gravel Tavern, we had Terry's. I lived between them. And my parents wouldn't let me play hockey on the road because of the drinkers that would go between the two. And then all of a sudden, we just say, okay, it's important now that we allow for alcohol sales in our community. Well, surprisingly, I'm wondering, like, why now? Well, in last year's federal budget, in June of 2024, the government said to band councils, you can tax these things now. You can tax alcohol. You can tax tobacco, fuel, cannabis. And so alcohol sales in our community, for what? We've all had people in our families that have died from drinking. We all know about the accidents that occur on the highways all the time, and people leaving here that are drinking. We know about the impacts of alcohol. And why a priority with this to bring booze into our community, other than maybe to raise revenues?
Is this an infrastructure question?
It is an infrastructure question. It is an infrastructure question.
It's gonna be different after half hour.
Because it deals with policing, extra policing, it deals with the fire department.
There's a
it
point
deals
of order,
with the
Sean.
services.
Sean,
All those things are part of the infrastructure. All I wanted to say, Chief, simply was that there's issues to be discussed. And I find it highly suspicious when we can go and we don't hear about sitting at meetings and talking about taxation when 1/3 of the reserves have land taxes. Almost 400 reserves have some form of taxation. And we don't hear about it from you guys. Why don't we hear about it?
About the other
Because we don't
reserves
have it.
having
Just-
taxation?
we're not
hold on,
doing
there's
it.
a point of
No,
order
about
here.
the process and the implementations and the strategies to push us into that thing. I'll tell you, when you don't pay your land tax, they take your house.
Sean, I have to abide by what the council's directions were. There was an opportunity for people to write into the band office what items they wanted to put on the agenda. I don't see those items that you're raising here on the agenda. And so there's going to be another general meeting. If you'd like to put them on the agenda, follow the process that the council's put in place.
Well, I think this was
I'm
a
trying to-
community meeting, Chief.
the
And
coun-
the one thing is that,
We just stated, Sean.
is that
We
didn't
just
have
stated,
input
Sean.
on the
Sean,
agenda.
Sean, we just stated, it's not on the agenda. There is going to be another agenda, or there's going to be another meeting, maybe next month or the month after. Put it on the agenda. Just follow, why don't you just follow the rules like everybody else did?
The council,
Everything was put in, everything was sent in.
Just-
Everything was sent in. Why wasn't it put on the agenda?
Well, why
Why are we
didn't you
talking
put it
about
on the
water
agenda
hookups?
then?
We want to talk about water
Why did
hookups,
you not put
and
it
I'll
on
tell
the
you one
agenda?
thing about water hookups.
Sean,
My
why don't
daughter
you go?
did 5 years
Yeah, okay,
in sick
okay.
kids in Toronto. 5 years in sick
Put it
kids.
on the agenda. Put it on the agenda. Put it on the agenda.
let's take a break.
It don't do no good sometimes, because you don't answer.
Well, next time, next month.
I just want to make the point that if we're
Okay,
talking
then
about
just make a
water,
point.
My daughter, living at my house, I don't have piped water. I don't have piped water. My daughter did a 5-year tour at Sick Kids. She was one of those kids that was living with cancer in this community when some of them were dying, and my daughter was too. You know, Chief, you went up to the Sick Kids.
I went to see them.
So I don't have piped water at my house. When the water line went in up along the businesses, up along Highway 2, it stopped 300 feet short of my business.
You're
So
not hooked
when,
up
when,
now?
when we're talking about infrastructure and we're talking about issues, you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Is that a priority?
Why are you not hooked up?
We
I'm
lobbied-
there.
we
It's
lobbied-
there. Why are you
we
not hooked up?
The
lobbied-
trains for it.
Okay, okay.
Water infrastructure was on the agenda. That's a fair
We
question.
just want to make sure, though, that everybody knows that there's been a little bit of disrespect thrown around here. We just kind of take, like, we had someone come and do the Ohana Gargodak to keep us in a good way, that we're off track, but we also kind of need a moment to gather ourselves individually so that we can all come back to the matter that we're here for. It's hard for us to gather as a community because there's lots of big feelings. We support each other in all these different things. Everybody has separate issues.
You are right, though. You hit the nail right on the head that, the matters that we are here for, the matters that were put on the agenda. And thanks, Sean, for bringing that up. I didn't know that about your daughter.
The-
I might have been gone. I might not have been home at the time or whatever, but, yeah,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I guess Chris doesn't want to stick to the agenda. He wants to answer the question.
I'd like to
No,
hear from
well,
Councillor
I
Chris.
just want to answer the question. Sean, you mentioned about alcohol, the taxation. This whole thing was driven by community businesses coming to council, and we're scratching our heads as we speak. There's no conspiracy up here to implement taxation, and I would tell you straight up. But we're scratching our heads going, what are we getting into here? Because on one hand, you want to support businesses. On the other hand, it's like people don't want the alcohol. But there's no talk of taxation at this table. I'm telling you, Sean, I give you my word. There's been no talk of that at this table when
Never see it
discussing
here.
those folks who want the permits for alcohol to get the license from LCBO or the government. But we're like, what are we getting into? So there's
Okay,
no
well,
plan, there's no
appreciate
plans
that, Chris.
on
Then-
taxation.
then I think part of the problem is that when alcohol is ratified as something to come into our community, and you guys make the decision and we don't have input into it,
Okay.
then that's a problem. When infrastructure gets put into our community and you decide which roads it goes down, and we don't have input, that's a problem. So there's a lot of things that when you're talking about the relevancy, but maybe there's a lot of questions that arise because we're not included in your discussions on issues that affect us, and it pisses me off.
And that's why we
so
need
when-
more
when there's-
community
When
meetings.
there's perceived disrespect, and there's no disrespect. There's no disrespect. I'm not calling any one of yous a sellout. I'm not calling any one of yous that you've ever suggested that any of yous have ever done anything wrong, because I know every one of yous. And I know that you care about my kids and my family and the things that go on in this community.
Sean?
So sometimes when you make a decision and you don't include the community, then that becomes a problem. And so we have bad feelings and perceived disrespect because we don't know what's going on and how that decision-making process was done and why we're not included on very serious issues that affect our families.
Sean, can I just clarify something? Back in about the late 1960s, closer to maybe 1970, when Mrs. Herb and Uncle Ted Green were on the council, they had a vote in the community whether the reserve would become wet with alcohol. And people were drinking bug killer and rubbing alcohol and becoming very, very sick. So the council thought it was better to allow alcohol because at that time it was illegal for an Indian to be in possession of alcohol of any kind or to buy alcohol. So they made the reserve wet. Then around 1970 or 71, this council house burnt down. Earl and a volunteer committee, they had, when the building got up and the second floor got up to finish it, they had dances and they had it, they thought they could make more money if they still had a bar at the dance. And so the only way they could have alcohol was to get a special permit from the Liquor Control Board. And it's functioned that way ever since. So people have been abiding by provincial law since then. And even here at the fair, the beer tent is operated by the fire department with a liquor control permit. Now, when you're going to sell the alcohol on an ongoing basis, then you don't need a permit, you need a license. All that's being regulated is the hours that they have to submit to an inspection to make sure that the store is not selling alcohol to minors, that they're not selling alcohol to drunk drivers who come in to get more. And if the community wants stricter hours, they have to simply let the registrar know what the concern is. And we did get, on the taxation question, we did consult the law firm of JFK, Sarah Mainville. We have a legal opinion on that. There is no added taxes on the alcohol. Most of the taxes are already in they're paid by the person that manufactures it. And so in terms of the income, Sarah Mainville commented that Section 87 of the Indian Act is still in the law of the land, that it's the personal property of the Indian and it's not subject to taxation. So they need to have a discussion with the Minister of Finance on that for Ontario to make sure, because that's the way tobacco, but the only difference with tobacco is there's a quota. There's no quota on this alcohol yet. But they do want it to operate the same way that the tobacco does. The council simply identifies that they don't have an issue with that business selling that product, but they have to abide by the provincial laws concerning that there's some regulation. If we have no regulation in place, we have a free-for-all and anything goes. We can have black market liquor smuggled into the country and so
Chief,
on.
we have a free-for-all anyway.
But
We have a
so
free-for-all
it's put some rules in place. If, you know, I agree, maybe we should have consulted the community, but a couple of businesses, and then of course, if we don't allow them to have economic development, then we might be sued for depriving them of loss of business income. And so it's a conundrum. And so that's the other thing about it. But I do agree that alcohol is a problem among Native people. It always has been. That's how we lost so much of our land, through alcohol. But drugs are just as bad. We have 400 people now in our community that have mental health issues. So, but anyway, that's not on the agenda, and the council asked to follow the agenda, and I want to respect that, because these items that were put on the agenda came from the community, not the council.
I put in my issues too, Chief.
Did you?
Yeah,
To who?
I sent them in like everybody else. I sent in the agenda.
So were they on the agenda? Whoever prepared the agenda? I didn't see the questions, I guess.
Neither.
All of the questions that were submitted were put in the agenda. Respectfully, if I can go back to just the housing conversation as well too, and why we had the agenda, wasn't for any reason nefarious, but purely so that we would have the opportunity as council, and we are a new council too, and like you've been active in this community probably longer than I've been alive, respectfully, but we are still learning, and we wanted to have the agenda so that everybody could have an opportunity. There are some people here who are not as comfortable speaking out in front of the larger crowd. And those are some people that may not get their voices heard or their questions answered as well. And we just wanted to give everybody an equal playing field. If they're not comfortable standing up, at least they were comfortable sending them in over email for us to answer. It also was a benefit for us because then we would be able to answer the questions to the best of our ability. There's lots of tiny little extra numbers and things that just don't stick in all of our heads. For example, when we asked the question about opening the road allowance, I don't want to give you the misinformation, but I'm quite certain the process is that there needs to be a certain number of houses on a road before it's actually considered a road and before we receive funding to have that road, to maintain it, all of that. So when it was looking into the opportunity of opening all these unopened road allowances, they considered all of the applications that are currently in, who have, or all of the people who have mortgage applications in and have received mortgages already and haven't been able to build because they can't access their house. So when there is so many of those, enough to be a house, or sorry, enough to consider that a road, then it was brought forward from infrastructure for our approval for them to utilize the amount of money they had currently, not forever, not going forward, not to consider that, but what they had currently and what they were able to open, considering who's able to build houses and utilize their land and their property that way. So I'm not 100% sure on what that number is, but I'd be happy to find that. Kristen, I think that was your question. I'd be happy to find that, but that was the purpose of the agenda. It was not to be nefarious, it's not to hide anything. We just want to be able to answer your questions to the best of our ability because we don't always have the answers immediately. The staff prepared so many of answers and the in-between stuff because it's the staff who really do all of this work. Like we're here at this table trying to liaise between the government and the community, and it is a lot, and without the staff we really would have nothing. Like it would be a standstill. It would come here and it would stop because there's not enough of us to be able to get all of the work done that we want to get done. And then another thing you had spoken about was the residency, and that is currently something that this council is looking at as well because we have fully 100% agree that residency needs to be looked at and how we enforce that and how we make our community safer for all of us, all of the community members. So I know that probably doesn't answer all of your questions, but if there's more, I would happily answer them.
You have
When I
to
have more
take my
information.
apology, Sean, for getting a little loud. But like we had said before, I'm sorry, but we can't address every single issue. We are planning on having regular community meetings so that people can, we're not trying to hide anything, and baby steps. Like, we just started, a lot of us are brand new, and I know you've been doing, but we got to start somewhere. When was the last time there has been a community meeting? So,
COVID.
okay, that was before us.
And when it,
That was before us, okay? So anyway, we would like to continue, and moving forward is to have more community meetings, and let's get through this one first, what we have in front of us here, and then let's move on to the next meeting and new questions, and eventually we're gonna answer a lot of questions that people may have.
and I appreciate that, and, you know, your suggestion that is not trying to hide anything. Well, I sat in the mayor's office in Deserano and was told by him about a land purchase in Deserano that occurred 8 months before. That wasn't even in the council minutes for $1.45 million. So when it comes to not hiding stuff, well, how is it that I get told by a friend of the community who's not a part of the community about the business of the community 8 months after it happened?
And once again,
I
how
was
did we
told
find
by-
out about a 100 truckloads of dirt going down to your property that came from off the reserve, from on the reserve,
Nothing has
taken
come
off the reserve?
Everything has been tested down there.
We know all about it.
Yeah, why don't you,
So let's get back to the agenda, right? Right? Back to the agenda, Sean?
Yes, the community identified the agenda, and it's very disrespectful to the community when we try to put a process in place, the community members put on the agenda what they want to hear from council, and then, Sean, I think you need to respect, let the agenda continue because the community members wanted to hear about these issues.
I'm just responding to the fact that there's nothing to hide.
It's not
Or-
on
or
the
a golf
agenda.
course that gets bought when, and the owner has to tell us 4 months after it happens. There's nothing to hide there either.
There is
Everything's
nothing
up
to hide,
front.
it's about, there's something very good to
Totally
tell you at the
upfront.
next meeting.
Yeah, you'll hear that in the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Sean.
Thanks.
So I think we're going to have a 5-minute break, and then we're going to get on with the Culbertson. So just get your coffee, come back to your seat and donut. Don't stand around and visit, get your coffee, come back to your seat. Thank you.
One is one sheet that they're gonna have to,
That concludes our meeting for tonight. Thank you all for coming. We'll try again next month.
they can't handle themselves. Okay? If they can't handle themselves. No.